Hello and welcome to Animal Talk with Trisha McCagh, the podcast that gives animals and nature a voice. Let me share a little about who I am and why this podcast exists. I'm an animal communicator, educator, author, and lifelong animal lover. For many years, I've worked with animals and their humans, helping to bridge the understanding between the species, not just behaviourally, but energetically and emotionally. My work is rooted in deep listening beyond language, logic, and learning to trust the silent language of animals and this planet. Animals have taught me that communication is not something extraordinary. It's something natural. It's something we've all simply forgotten how to tune into. Each of our episodes is designed to leave you with a new way of seeing animals and a deeper sense of connection with not only animals but also nature. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being part of a conversation that honours animals as sentient, intelligent beings and offers reverence to the importance of the natural world. Today we are joined by a truly special guest, Alison Jarred, a guide and ambassador of the extraordinary spiritual community of Damanhur. Damanhur is a living temple of consciousness, a federation of spiritual seekers in the Italian Alps dedicated to healing, ancient wisdom, connection with nature, and the evolution of human potential. Alison has devoted her life to exploring energy, consciousness, and the sacred bond between humans, animals, nature, and the unseen world. Her journey reminds us that magic is not a forgotten language. It is one we are learning to hear again. We're very honoured to learn from Alison today. Hi, Alison. I am so looking forward to speaking with you today and asking you a million questions. Thank you so much for coming on the show and being with me.
You're welcome. Thanks, Trisha. Really pleased to be here with you and to be able to share today.
Well, we've kind of already shared, haven't we? Because I visited you at your magnificent property in the Perth Hills. Absolutely wonderful. And I also love the fact that you have a welcome tree.
Indeed.
Would you like to tell everyone about that?
Yes, of course. So it sits with the idea that trees are really part of a family. They're not individual. They work collectively with the trees that are in their environment. So from that understanding, we've designated one tree. So we kind of did like a little ritual with this tree to invite it to be the point of contact. So it's almost like it's kind of like the telephone system that we can connect with this tree to talk to all of the trees collectively within the area. And so as a mark of our wish and our willingness to communicate with plants in this way, we welcome it. So we greet it each day as a mechanism of showing our intention to be with the field of the trees.
That's beautiful, isn't it? Absolutely beautiful. And I just want to tell everybody who's, in our audience that that tree is beautiful. It's like you sit at the base of it on trees. It's very serene. There's some beautiful things underneath. And it just forms like a canopy over you, almost like it's protecting you and looking after you. I just absolutely loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wanted to ask you about, I want you to share, if you can, some of your discoveries and research to do with Damanhur.
Certainly. So Damanhur is a intentional spiritual community, I guess you'd have to say, as a general description. It is many things, and it's been going for quite some time. So it's now in its 51st year. It's actually the second largest spiritual community of that nature in the world. I think the largest one is the one in India, Aurora there. So what Damanhur is, it's not religious as such. So when we say, it's a spiritual community, it's a very inclusive one in that it believes in the diversity of people, that our movement forward for evolution is one of collective consciousness. So it's all about bringing everyone together, embracing the diversity of the individuality, but bringing it in a more focused way to be able to assist in the awakening of humankind. They have lots of technologies. Probably the biggest and most famous of those is the temple. So it's called the Temples of Humankind. And this is an incredible series of halls that are dug inside a mountain. So you find Damanhur at the base of the Italian Alps, and that they tunneled into this very specific point because this was a nexus point of energy on the planet. Our planet has, magnetic and energetic lines, you'd have to say, as do all things have a magnetic and electric, if you want to say, nature. So on our planet, we call the magnetic lines like the ley lines, and they're quite, famous and mappable. What's a little bit more subtle is these cosmic lines or energetic lines that come in through the sun and pass through the planet. And these wiggle and jiggle all over the place. They're not quite so regular as ley lines, but they hold a lot of energy and information of the cosmos. And indeed, the ancient groups, the indigenous groups on the planet, were very aware of these lines. And here in Australia, if you look at the maps of these energetic lines, they are very much what we would call the rainbow serpent lines because they wiggle and jiggle just like a snake. And these serpent lines, there are points on the planet where, as you can imagine, some of these cross. And where obviously you get two rivers that cross, there's more energy. However, there are two places on the planet where four of those rivers knot together. And one of them is Tibet. So as we can imagine, where the incredible spiritual rising of Tibet, this is a place where four rivers knot. And the other place on the planet is inside this mountain in Italy. And that's where Damanhur is. And that's where they created these temples to connect with these four great rivers of cosmic energy. And that's why it's such an incredible nexus point of energy.
Wow. Okay. That's just anyway, I'm just so enthralled. I'm just sitting here very quietly with all this wonderful information. Look, I can appreciate that because it's very interesting. My ears really pricked up when you were talking about the crossing of the rivers and you'll get more energy even with the crossing of two rivers.
Oh.
I've actually been in a ritual, an ancient ritual at the joining of two rivers. And I had a very profound experience. I had, it was almost like visuals that were real. They were right in front of me. I could see things other people couldn't see. And I was seeing, actually, I was in America at the time. And what I could see was the ancient. So I could see ancient Native American Indians, and I could see actually Australian Indigenous Aboriginal people. And they were around the fire doing a ritual dance, tribal. I was privy to it. And I had a ritual done on myself, and it was really interesting because the person who was actually running the ceremony, she was actually, it was almost like trancing, and she was singing. Now I've heard her singing voice and love her so much. But when she was singing during this trance, she had the most beautiful voice, but it was not in English. And I remember thinking to myself, I wish I could understand this. So every third word came in English. I could hear it.
Wow.
It's the most profound experience. And then I heard, "You will never be the same again," and I wasn't. So something very profound happened that day. The energy was intense and it was amazing. So my next question has to be, and I know you're going to say, yes, I've been to that mountain in Italy. Please do tell some of those experiences that you must have had there.
Yes.
I can only imagine.
For sure. I have been there many times, of course. So much so from the first time I went there, which was like in 2017, I think was the first time I visited this place. And truly, the energy is incredible. The night I arrived there, just sleeping on the land there, I was actually woken with a conscious dream, a dream that just was telling me to go outside and stand on the land. And I was like, oh, okay. And so in the end, I did. I went outside and I could feel all of this energy. But what it really spoke to me, it was as if the feeling was if spirit had come home. It was like it met something very centered in me. And I knew from that moment that something about this place was very, very much about my soul journey. And certainly in the years that followed, this was very much the case. Damanhur, it's not just the temple. Of course, being inside the temple, it's incredible. Whenever I go there, I try to find as many reasons as possible to get inside the temples themselves. It's very hard to describe. You can look on the internet. They are very, very beautiful. Each temple has a different meaning, a different translation of element that it works with. They're incredibly every item in the temples that is painted, carved, sculptured, created is done with conscious meaning. And so there's a strong field of consciousness, you'd have to say, within those temples. And they also have this capacity to work obviously with your energy body and to bring an alignment, because of course you're in the wash of those big rivers of cosmic energy. And it's an incredible one of the things that you notice there is what they call synchronicity. Now, synchronicity is like a law that, we say, oh, we have synchronic events because things, we think about something and it turns up. One of the aspects of this place, because you've got 4 big rivers, is synchronicity is absolutely amplified. You only have to think of things and they appear. So much so that, a lot of the transport there is called synchronic lift. And you just stand at these places and you think about where you want to go. And for sure, someone will just stop and pick you up and go, oh, do you need to go? And you have this whole network of transport, which is from synchronic thought. So again, that's an interesting thing.
Well, it is interesting, fascinating, but you've just brought me to that, what I know, my experience and what I've been shown and various things, that on the other side, that's exactly how everything works. You think of something, everything is synchronized because perhaps they don't have the heaviness of this planet, but where those rivers join, something, we're experiencing the cosmic right here on Earth. It's very exciting. Do you feel personally that you're more aligned with one of those temples? Like right now, it probably shifts, but are you more aligned with one of the temples than, say, the others? And which one would that be?
Ooh, this is tricky. I do have my favorite ones where I really love to be. Probably the one that is the Temple of Water. The Temple of Water is the walls of it were inscribed by the inspirer of Damanhur, which is a man, Alberto Araldi, who became known as Falco, because within Damanhur there is this tradition of taking on animal names, which is again part of connecting to the consciousness of the field. So Falco was, an extraordinary man, certainly probably a man you'd have to say of very high consciousness and big connection into the galactic field. And inside the walls of this water temple is inscribed galactic languages. I believe what they've said, about 12 different galactic alphabets and symbology languages. And it's interesting, to go in there and meditate. One of the things you can do is to go in there and you can feel which of these languages are talking to. Also, this particular temple is the nexus point. It sits right in the middle of where the 4 rivers are. And of course, water, as you know, is a field that holds memory and information. And so this is definitely one of my most favorite temples. But yeah, there's a few others that are pretty good too.
I can imagine. I'd want to try them all, of
Yes.
course. Hello. But it's like when you're with the ancient texts, has anybody deciphered them? Do they have meaning? And can we, is there a way of reading about them or finding out about them? that sort of thing?
Yes, it's a journey for sure, and within Damanhur they have a mystery school, like an initiate school, so you can go in to study higher levels of information, esoteric unfoldment, this kind of thing. It's very much a path for opening to higher, like collective consciousness, group consciousness work. But also within that field of study, we study the language of symbology, sometimes called sacred language, because often symbolic language is a language that's more rich and dense in meaning. You think of for us, we have, a word like, my name, Alison. It's made up of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters. So each of those are symbols. So I needed 6 symbols just to make my name. Whereas back then, you would have one symbol, which could be a book within itself, because the old symbolic language, or the higher symbolic language, is more an archetypal language, and so very rich with meaning. So yes, you can study these meanings. Yes, some of it has been unlocked, but a lot of it is, you'd have to say, it's resonant with the perceptual frequency of the observer.
Yes.
So, depending on where you're at in your own vibrational frequency, I guess, then it can talk to you, if you're a match with it. And this has certainly been my experience, and in discussion with others, experience of them as well.
So look, I'm just so deeply enthralled, and I've just got to put that on my agenda of my life,
Rest
my
of the
bucket list.
agenda. Yes.
Absolutely, yes, we all have to go there. But so you've actually brought it sort of, want of a better way to describe it. You've brought Damanhur to Australia, Perth in particular. Are there others? Because obviously
Yes.
you're running it in a very similar way with consciousness and everything you've described. So, because there might be people listening who are in Australia right now, if you're not in Italy,
Yes.
that might want to know, how could they sort of get involved with Damanhur?
Totally. So, Damanhur is not just in Italy. Of course, this is where it started, and it's kind of where the nexus of it is, you'd have to say. But it has very much spread out into the world, because uh, the project of Damanhur is also about building community, about building conscious community, because they see really this is our next evolutionary step on how we'll progress on this planet, is being able to work in like consciousness hubs and to build more and more of them, and that each consciousness hub is responsive to the land that it's on, the people who make it up. So it's not about replicating what is in Italy, but finding a way that we can respond from the level of working collectively with the plants, with the animals, with the land, and bringing these elements together and finding a diverse expression of that. So it's very much the model of conscious community. And of course, this, I think, it's very much something that people feel drawn to. Certainly felt drawn to it. And so there are many of these hubs all over the world now. So I think there's kind of like 18 major hubs. When I say it's a major hub, it means it's a place where they actually, they also do the rituality of Damanhur. So one of the things that Damanhur very much hook into is the rhythms of the earth and the rhythms of the sun, because they believe these are important nexus points, again, where where energy can be both received and transmitted. And of course, these are the times of solstice and equinox, which, as you would know, have been celebrated upon this planet for eons of time. But wherever,
Well,
mm,
yes, most definitely. Stonehenge in Egypt,
yes,
in all of
exactly,
the major monuments that have been built by the ancients all have that in common. It's to do with the sun, it's to do with the solstice, it's to do
yes,
with the stars.
it is,
They knew a lot more than us, and it's wonderful that Damanhur is bringing a lot of that back.
yes.
It's already been here, but to the modern world.
Exactly. And so in each of these major hubs, This rituality, so the same kind of ritual held all across the planet, again, to make a big connective field to assist the rise of consciousness. And so here in Perth, Australia, where I am, this is one of the hubs where we do this rituality for solstices and equinoxes. But of course, other countries in the world also. So, there's a big group of people in Japan. Japan, they have two large groups, and in fact, they've been established much longer than our group in Australia has, and they've actually just built a temple there as well called the Blue Temple, which is absolutely beautiful. But there are big groups within America. So their center is in Boulder, Colorado. There are many, many centers throughout Europe, which of course are, hubs within Croatia, Belgium, Germany, Netherlands, and I could go on, Spain, many, many places, of course, around Europe. But beyond that, there are also, there's a new center that's starting in Brazil. Is another new one that's just arising, of a group that's come together. But yeah, popping up all over the place. But there's also individuals or small groups that may not be able to create a big center where they can hold the rituality, but they have ways of connecting them in. So they're, apart from the big groupings, like even in Australia, we have a smaller grouping of members who are in Adelaide who work together. But in So it's really just kind of depending on what part of Damanhur you're wanting to play in. So in terms of creating community, obviously you're wanting to hub together to be able to work as a community. But we also have virtual community groups as well. So groups that meet online over Zoom each week. And we are community groups that work together more on the teachings, the learnings, and work more in a virtual capacity, I guess you'd say. They still hook into the rituals, but they use other ways of hooking in other than physically attending.
It's just wonderful to know what's going on around the world, how they're doing it, and bringing all of this diversity actually into balance and harmony,
Yes.
which it is. You mentioned many times the animals, the plants, all of the natural world, and how it works in balance and harmony with us, because we are part of that natural world. We're not separate to it, or we shouldn't be. We're all
Yes.
part of that. So this is wonderful. And I know you do a lot of that ritualistic work there. And I'm hoping to get more into that, by the way. But what I did want to ask you about is, I want to go now into plant consciousness.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if you could tell everyone a little bit more about plant consciousness itself.
Yes, for sure. The first thing to realize is that, plants have consciousness. I guess that's the starting point. For my own journey in that was actually a book years ago that I read called The Secret Life of Plants. And it was a wonderful telling of this gentleman in, I think it was in New York. He had a lie detector machine, and he used to work in contract for the police department. And one day he was a little bit bored, and he was looking at the pot plant on his desk, and he just thought, I wonder if plants respond to lie detector machines. And so he plugged this plant into the machine, and he could see that there was a readout on his little paper thing. And he was like, oh, okay, it's showing like it's got an electric pulse. And so then he thought, well, maybe I could stimulate it. So he's like, oh, what could I do? He's like, oh, I know. I'll burn one of the leaves. And so he raced off to his secretary in the room next door because she smoked. And so he went to get her lighter. But by the time he come back, ready to burn the leaf on this plant, already the machine, it was going, whoop, 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 whoop. And then he was like, wow, that's amazing. Just the thought of burning it has caused a change in how the plant was responding. And this led him to do a whole series of very interesting experiments. But the fundamental aspect was that plants are responding to us and the environment all the time. And this was an interesting thing because within Damanhur, they were also very much, looking at the consciousness of plants and how do we make this consciousness more visible, or in this case, audible to people so they can feel this. And it actually led to the development of a device called the Music of the Plants. And this was many years ago in Damanhur. They started experimenting with this, where they took that little signal that the plants were giving off and put it through a MIDI device, like a synthesizer, to turn that electrical signal into sound so that you could hear how the plant was responding. And this was such an interesting thing. It was something I also became fascinated in, because it was a very real way that you could see how the plant absolutely was very sentient. And like this plant here beside me, this my dear friend Cassandra.
Beautiful Cassandra, and of course
She
we
was
and also Violet next to her.
Violet is down here. And
Yes.
yeah, so I undertook to work with a device to learn this kind of. So this is the device that I'm talking about. This is a Music of the Plants device. This one here is called the
Yes.
Bamboo M. And like if I turn it on, and what it has is got a probe that goes to the root of the plant and a clip that goes to the leaf of the plant. It records, as I said, that signal within sound. And what's very interesting is that when you first hook up a plant to this kind of thing, it the beats are kind of just very robotic. It's like as if it's like a learner playing on the piano, just playing scales is a way you could look at it. But after the plant, you can see it changes after some hours. That the plant will start, for a better way of saying it will realize it is making the sound. And then something happens. It starts to vary the choice of note, and it will vary the rhythm of the note and start to express itself. Also, what you can start to see through this process is that when you interact with the plant, so if you're playing a musical instrument or if other people join the room, it's very easy to hear how the plant is changing its relationship with what's around it, because you can hear it in the sound. The sounds will change. It will actually make different. Oh, you love. She knows I'm talking about her. She's starting to lift her voice now. I don't know if you can hear her so well, but
I can.
yes.
Beautiful.
Now, just because I'm saying she's lifting her voice, she's lifting even higher now. It's an interesting way to be able to experience plant consciousness in a way that can make it feel very real for you. Like many of us will feel this essence of plant consciousness when we go to sit, among trees or in the forest. There's something as we quieten ourselves. Uh, and we kind of allow ourselves to drop to, what I would call the speed of nature, because obviously we need to come into a resonance with it. If we're really, really fast and busy, it's very hard to connect in. But when we sit and we allow ourselves just to come to that rhythm of nature, yeah, I'm sure many people that are listening to this will sort of nod and go, yeah, I can really feel that. I can really feel times where I've sat there with my back against the tree, and after a while, there is a sense of exchange.
I think a lot of people know I'm an animal communicator, but I'm just kind of wondering now whether I should start calling myself a nature communicator, because I don't just communicate with animals.
Yeah.
I also communicate with plants. Now, with Cassandra and Violet, it was very interesting because we were listening to Cassandra and Violet because you mentioned that they like to play together.
Yeah, they do.
Now, I don't know whether anybody's noticed, but the volume's gone down a little bit for a bit. Cassandra is listening, and it's not that Violet isn't. But when I was there, they were playing for us, and we were chatting. And then we moved away. We got up and we moved away slightly, and actually they stopped playing completely. But we had been really in our conversation. And then it was interesting, while we were away talking and getting all involved in our own thing, all of a sudden music started to come away, and it was loud and it was coming. It just took my attention. I turned around and Cassandra said, just making sure you're still listening. It was the most amazing thing. Violet just sat within her own power, but Cassandra, because she does like to be seen, she is quite the center of attention. But it wasn't even, it was just because, I'll be really honest with you, in her words, that her music was a lot more harmonious than our talking. And that's why sometimes I felt like she was reminding us to listen, to be silent. Like you said, just go sit there, sit with the trees, sit with the plants, because nature does speak and you can learn so much, but you have to learn to be quiet. Now, I wanted to ask you about these devices because I couldn't help myself, Alison. You know I have one. I have the Bamboo M, you know. There is another one, of course. There is the ginkgo.
Yes.
Which you can show everyone. That, yeah, so it's it's more a speaker, a kind of plug in and go. So you still have the probe and you still have the little electrode, but it's just a speaker. So can you explain a bit the difference that the Bamboo M does? Because it has a lot of settings. How does that affect what, Cassandra and say Violet is playing, or, the impulses that they're giving off?
Really, the difference is that the Bamboo M has a full synthesizer within it. So the energy of, or the impulses that are passing through the synthesizer, this is coming from the plant. So they're providing the impulses. Those impulses are then converted to sound by the device. So it's turning the energy of the plant into sound. Now,
So it can never be that. So it can never be the device that is playing those, like making up what it's doing.
No,
it has to be fueled. Yeah,
that's right. The actual note being played and the rhythm of the note is determined by the plant. Now, the sound of the note is determined by the synthesizer. Just as if you were on an electric piano and you're going, okay, I want it to sound like flute. And so you click the synthesizer button to choose flute sound or tinkly bell sound, or I want it to, play in, there is this quality of the synthesizer that allows a type of translation of sound, I guess you would say, to be played. The other thing that the device can do is you can limit in some ways, I guess, or modify the range of notes that can be selected according to scales. So this is useful, and part of the name of Bamboo M, it's like it is the instrument for musicians also in this way, because this capacity to tune it to scales allows the plant to sing along with instruments as well. So, for example, if you're playing like a crystal bowl or a didgeridoo or even a flute, and it's in the key of C, then you can set the parameters of the scale choices to the key of C. You can also set it to like pentatonic scales, which like the Indian flutes, those that all the notes harmonize. That's because they're playing a pentatonic scale. And so you can set the range of notes that are available to be chosen to that scale. There's also, if people are interested in solfeggio sounds, which is a very harmonic frequency of music, or sounds that sit with, Indian instruments, which have their own particular scale set. All of these settings are available within the Bamboo M, really for collaboration. It's so that you can play music with your plant friend. And indeed, I have been to some amazing plant concerts in my life. The first one I went to was in Damanhur, where they had 8 different plants singing, along with a woman who was also singing, and they were all kind of being mixed through this, big mixer. And it was the most incredible experience. They were all harmonizing with each other, these 8 different plants and this woman. And afterwards, we were asking, who was leading and who was following. And she was very much, well, she says it's a co-creation. You just have to sit in your center and try and let it take you. Feel where the sound wants to go. And then we all go there together. And that's how she described it.
So, yeah, look, so Alison, if in that case, if you've been to several of them, Have you always found that whatever plants they have there that they've linked them into will all eventually harmonise? They like to harmonise. They will harmonise.
They tend to, for sure. Some plants are more um, musical, I guess maybe like humans, than others. Some have a bigger expression, like Cassandra. Cassandra, she's very divic. She loves to sing, she's a wonderful one to take anywhere because she's never shy. And I say this in all seriousness because some plants I have taken to a group to show how plants can sing. Some of them, as soon as there's lots of people around looking at them, they won't say a word. They just and it's like,
How
oh,
marvellous.
and it's like, and then once the attention goes away from them, and we're talking about, then you hear this, oh, 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 in the background. But some of them don't like the attention on them at all, but others thrive on it. Like Cassandra, she loves it. I take her to, to big expos and things like that because I know she would just love it. She just always sings. Also,
So we can put people together playing instruments.
yeah,
We can put a whole level, amount of plants together, and we're going to create like a symphony or an orchestra.
absolutely.
We can do that.
Yes, indeed. It reminds me actually of something. My son Ben, he was had to choose a project for his school that he was going to do, and what he chose was the orchestra of my garden. And what he did was he grew lots of different vegetables in the garden. And then using the music device, and of course the Bamboo M also allows you to record as well. It's got more functions in that way. And so then he recorded the music of each of his plants, and then in the computer he just mixed them to make an orchestral track of which became the orchestra of his garden. But yeah, look, truly, I have heard, there's a plant in Russia apparently that makes stage appearances with an opera singer. There is some interesting stuff happening with plants and music in the world.
This is another interview where time was sucked into a time vortex, so we will continue with part 2 in another episode. In the second part of our conversation with Alison, you'll find out how you figure out what music your plant likes to play and what stopped the music of the plants in a vegetarian restaurant.
It's a podcasting jungle out there. We'd like to find our way to the light above the canopy. So if you wouldn't mind, give the subscribe button a poke. We'd really appreciate it. But up next, what does the animal think?
What does the animal think? You might think they like it. Do they really? Our special bird testers come direct from the wilds of a pristine coastal suburb in Australia. Notably, my backyard. Water is life, not just for us, but for every living being we share this planet with. Yet the water that reaches our taps isn't always as pure as nature intended. That's why I wanted water as close to its natural form as possible. Clean, balanced, free of chemicals, chlorine and heavy metals. Water that carries the energy of life itself. I have a wild bird family in my backyard, and their health and well-being is very important to me. So I created a little relaxation spa right outside my window, a place to watch them frolic and just have fun. At first they were very particular. They preferred rainwater, which is what they told me, which isn't always easy in a dry area. The bath also had to be perfectly clean and just the right depth. Naturally, I tried to comply. But of course, complaints started when the rainwater ran out. So I had an idea. What if I gave them the water from my own house, which was fully filtered? The company, My Water Filter, converted my whole house into better quality water, which I love drinking and bathing in, and I thought the birds would love that too. I started the experiment. And here's what happened. These normally polite birds turned into water hoggers. One particular bird didn't want to share at all, and the others had to learn some extreme patience until impatience got the better of them, and it became a chaotic free-for-all. But when birds start fighting over water, you know it's good. My Water Filter, approved and enjoyed by me and my backyard wattlebirds.
Next up, animal news with Trisha and Dana.
Dana, I want to talk about zoomies.
Oh, what kind of zoomies?
Now, there are animals, different types of animals that do zoomies. First of all, we are going to talk about the cat zoomies, but we can interject with other zoomies.
Okay.
But we want to talk about it because experts have a few things to say about it. And we're the animal experts, as in from the animals. So
Mm-hmm.
we've got to put our 2 cents worth in for what the animals are saying now or have ever said to us about this particular thing. Because we'll see how diverse our opinions are with these
That's
experts.
right.
I'm going to. There's an article here that they've
Mm-hmm.
written about this of what they're saying, and I think we should go through and talk about each one. Now, most cats get the zoomies. I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
But it's also known as, I've got to say this properly, frenetic random activity periods, or FRAPs.
Ah,
So that's a
fraps.
shortened.
Okay.
So the shortened version is FRAPs.
Yep.
And they get this at some point. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So it also happens after cats poop. Now,
I think I know where you're going.
Pulse terms, Pooforia, and crap and frap. And various reasons have been put forward for this. So we're going to
Okay.
now open up Pandora's box. Okay. Some people think it's a reaction to a dirty litter box because cats are clean animals, so they want to get away from their feces as quickly as possible.
Mm, okay.
Okay. That's not been my experience with the over 2 decades that I've spent talking to animals. And as you know, I am a great lover of cats and
Yep.
had cats, have cats. Cats are all around. So cats don't want to get away from it. In fact, a lot of them think their smell, their texture, and many other things are really enriching. They think their person could enjoy this, and they're not in a hurry to get away from it, because that's why when cats pee, they urinate places, they also think it's a lovely aroma. So no, that hasn't been my experience at all. So, and also, if they're so happy to get away from this smell, well, they wouldn't look like they look when they're doing a zoomie. Now, some think it could be a sign of a gastrointestinal infection or other digestive problems.
Mm.
Well, firstly, I think if you felt that ill, I don't think you'd be doing a zoomie, because we're talking zoomies up curtains, onto
Yep.
scratchy poles, my cats across tables, knocking chairs over. We're
Doing the happy
talking
laps. Mm-hmm.
top physical activity. They're
Mm-hmm.
athletes. And I've seen one of my cats do this in her 20s,
Yeah.
right?
She
So
was
this
amazing.
isn't limited to just young cats who have that physicality.
Yep.
And they've also got, I'd have to say it's a mixture between happiness and mischievous
Yeah, that's
on
actually
their
very
face, right?
accurate.
I know that you and I have experienced gastrointestinal issues,
Let me
and we
tell
didn't
you.
like that, and we didn't have that kind of energy. So that's
No.
not been the experience, and not been the communication or verbal activity that we've had with animals.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't come across, and that's not been one of the reasons. Now, this is an interesting one. Now, another theory is that behavior harks back to the animal's wild past,
Mm-hmm.
where feces can attract predators. And so scampering quickly after the deed is done can help to avoid the unwelcome attention.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Again, this is not they're in a hurry to get somewhere.
No.
They are in a hurry to express their excitement. They are expressing their joy from all of this. Now, let's get down to what cats have told me. And that is that they do get like a pooforia. I will agree with that. Because pooforia comes from, they told me, they said, it's like, this is hard to put it in
Love the accuracy.
going to
Yep.
have to say it as it is.
Yep.
A burden has been lifted. I am lighter. I am now faster. I am nimble. I have got out what should be out and not in. And I am happy for that. And I am ready for massive action, right? So that is a very different story. And many cats have told me this. Many
So
cats.
incredible.
But of course, Dana, it's not just cats that do zoomies.
No, definitely not. I mean, I can definitely say over many years, my dog has done the exact same thing. And he'll go and do that level intense concentration while he's doing his thing. And the moment it's done, he kicks back like he's about to kick in an engine, and off he goes around the yard constantly, constantly. And if you happen to be in the way, activate zoomies together. You got to zoom after him as well. And it becomes this whole routine and this whole experience. And when I've asked him in the past, he said, well, nothing smells better than what I have to release. And it's the best feeling in the world. So why not?
You know, Dana, I have been present when your dog has done
Yeah.
this. And your dog has the most amazing big smile on his face. You know,
Absolutely.
there is a joy in their face and their eyes that I can only dream of. You know? And look, you know, without getting you know, too
Too
personal,
graphic.
um, I'm sure. I mean, I myself have experienced something similar. I don't do zoomies, but it is a release and it is
Mhm.
great. And people do get really concerned if it goes a few days and you haven't released. And
Yeah,
then when
I
you
can
finally
understand
release,
why.
I've had family members that when they finally release, they've come out and they've almost done zooming. So I'm just saying, you know, like I must admit, talking even about dogs, when you're talking about dogs, I remember one time a dog said to me that he was very concerned about his person
Mm.
because she sat on the white chair,
Oh,
which
the white
obviously
chair.
is the toilet,
The
and
white
sitting
chair.
on the white chair. But I'm very concerned for my person because they looked really upset and they had a lot of unusual, worrisome facial expressions, and they thought that their person was in pain. All right? So I'm just saying it's very important you understand that we do some things that they don't understand either. So don't always say, oh, well, I don't know why they do that. Well, they look at us and say, I don't know why you're doing that. One of the other really interesting ones is when you're over the bath, cleaning the bath, and they can just see your behind, and the rest of you is over there, and you're making all this noise and doing all this grunting and huffing and puffing, and they don't know what you're doing, but they said it's very strange. So I'm just letting you know that kind of works both ways, and
Perspective.
it's different perspectives, and it's very, very interesting. But I'm glad that we could clear up the Zoomy story because in this particular instance, apart from the poophoria,
Mhm.
I think the experts have got it quite wrong.
I think so too.
And I think the people that are guardians for these animals have got it quite wrong. So I'm so glad that you and I, through our knowledge, but being able to speak directly to animals, that we could clear this up. We now have the animal's perspective, which really is the main one in this particular instance.
Well, it definitely is the most accurate one, that's for sure.
So I'm glad. So happy Zooming to you, Dana, and to your dog
To
and
you
to
too.
all animals of the world. Keep Zooming because I have to tell you, it was one of my blessings to see my cats in particular do this.
Mm.
They would come tearing out of the bathroom at 100 miles an hour, skidding around a corner. They would zoom past me where fur just leapt into the air. I felt the whoosh of the body go past my legs and they disappeared into the other part of the house. I had to give chase because it's so exciting to watch. You don't want to miss a minute of it.
No,
So
you
here's
definitely don't.
watching every Zoomie that you possibly can in the future. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Animal Talk. Don't forget to follow, share, and join us next time as we continue to give a voice to the animals and to the deeper wisdom of the entire natural world.